All right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, we're at Legacy Studios doing some work that you're going to see over the next couple of days. But I wanted you to see this for this Thursday night. It has to do with Bruno Sammartino. And again, Bob Dvorak and I will be talking about him tomorrow night right here. And then we'll all get together and talk about him, Bob, Greg, and Ted and I, on the Coons Market Black and Gold Sunday show at 11. Bruno Sammartino's passing means so much to so many in Western Pennsylvania. And yes, a lot of us have lost a very dear friend and a real icon when it comes to the business of sports promotion. And you know, I've been a big fan of Vince McMahon for a very long time, as I have the sport entertainment of wrestling. That's right, professional wrestling. And no one did it bigger, bolder, or better than Bruno Sammartino, who was the reigning World Wrestling Federation champion for well over a decade. And joining me now is my promoter friend. You've heard him many times, the fight professor, Bernie Vukolich, joining us on the AT&T Sports Line from Legacy Studios. And Bernie, last second, I was getting ready to leave, and I said, you know what? I'm going to give Bernie a call so people can really understand the significance of what he was as far as an amazing draw to where he put 20,000 people in the seats at Madison Square Garden time and time again. And no matter where he was in the country or even in the Far East where he was adored, large crowds would come to watch this guy wrestle. I know why, but tell the audience why Bruno Sammartino was such a incredible gate wherever he was inside the ring.
Well, I think it had a lot to do, Rob, with his personality. He's one of those fellas that when you meet him for the first time, you knew him all your life. He was that warm and that welcoming, and he was so approachable. He was a down-to-earth Pittsburgh guy for sure. The other thing is, he spoke Italian, as you know, because he was born in Italy and came over here as a young boy with his mother to meet up again with the father who had been here for a while. So when he came here, he had no choice but to learn English. And he would talk to the crowds in New York and Pittsburgh in both Italian and English. And the people loved that because he was a big draw for the Italian people, both in New York and here. And so I think that made him extremely popular. Plus, the guy could play flat out wrestle. I remember bumping into him one night years ago at the Italian Hall of Fame dinner that they were having here. There's such a thing as the Italian Sports Hall of Fame, and he was an invitee that night. I think he'd already been inducted. And I didn't know Bruno from a hill of beans, but I met him at the bar, and he was getting a drink, and I was getting a Diet Coke or something like that, and we got to talking, and I just asked him, I said, hey, Bruno, how do you think you would do against these wrestlers of today? And he kind of chuckled a little bit, and he said, no, the question is, how would they do against me? And I think what he was saying is that there would have been no match, because he was so superior. I mean, this is a guy who sold out. He wrestled Madison Square Garden, Rob, 187 times, and I think he told me he sold it out 184 times. I mean, nobody does that.
Incredible.
And so, you know, he was a draw beyond description, and he was a strong guy. You know, he wasn't that big. I think maybe when he wrestled in his prime, he might have weighed 260, 280. And some of these guys today are 10 inches taller than him and outweigh him by 50, 60 pounds. So, you know, he was a good guy, let's put it that way, in the ring.
You know, a lot of the people that were his contemporaries of the time, they had this thing in common that was wrestling, as in technique. What you would see collegiate, high school, obviously the flair of the entertainment was added, the characters, their role, and who they were in sports entertainment, but there was technique. And I think that's why there was such a love affair with professional wrestlers during his heyday and collegiate and amateur wrestlers, because mixed in this routine that really took physical endurance to new heights, that they actually had wrestling technique that purists could identify with. And I think that's why, to this day, Bruno Sammartino is so loved by many, and obviously his brute strength was incredible and documented by many, to where even why Arnold Schwarzenegger became such a huge fan of his, because Arnold, who came from Austria, a lot like Bruno came from Italy, learned to speak the language, learned to become an American, and because of, I guess, humbler days, they did everything to make their way in this country and be successful through a lot of sweat equity. So there's much more to Bruno Sammartino than just wrestling. This guy was really incredible in more ways than people will ever know. but I think it really gets back to his ability to do just that. Sports entertainment, yes, but he was a great athlete, and he was a man that understood wrestling, Bruno.
Well, it's sport entertainment for sure at its best, but many of those wrestlers will tell you that they're usually on the shelf half of a year healing from the injuries that they sustained in the ring. I mean, it certainly is contrived or choreographed, however you want to say it, and Bruno was a part of that. But when you pick a guy up that weighs 250 pounds, you throw him 4 feet over the top of the ring rope, and he lands on a padded mat. See if you want to do it, how many times you're going to do it in your career and come away unscathed. So it's sports entertainment, but it is a tough physical thing. And you watch some of these guys in the ring, it's amazing to watch them move around as big as they are. You know, you may remember Bucky Palermo, the great referee. In fact, you did ring announcing for us back in the Golden Gloves days when Bucky was refereeing, and he and Bruno had a special bond. Bucky told me one day, because he refereed professional wrestling, he says there's no comparison between him and the other guys. He was that superior.
The last thing, we're talking to our fight expert, boxing promoter extraordinaire, my good friend. He is Bernie Vukolich. Bernie, I'll leave you with this. I don't know of any athlete, any entertainer at the height of their career could put as many people in the seat at some of the largest venues throughout the world consistently, time and time again, year after year, like Bruno Sammartino did. Fair statement?
Not in that, yeah, fair, very fair for his era. In the modern era, you could say the same about Ric Flair. Not in terms of his wrestling skill, but in terms of his promotional ability. But that's, a generation removed.
Well, because of Bruno Sammartino, and I'll leave you with this, and I'm sure Vince McMahon would even agree, watching Andre the Giant, a great HBO documentary, if you get a chance, please watch it. WrestleMania 3, Pontiac Silverdome, I remember it well. Main event, the Hulkster, Hulkamania at its height, taking on Andre the Giant, who became a villain for this match. 93,000 people inside the Pontiac Silverdome. And why would Vince McMahon agree with this statement? Because it's a fact. Without the path that was laid by Bruno Sammartino, none of that would have been possible, Bernie.
I think that's accurate.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bernie Vukolich talking the legacy of Bruno Sammartino. More tomorrow night from Legacy Studios. And then, of course, we'll talk about it with the crew on the Coons Market Black and Gold Sunday show at 11 on KDK Radio. Good night.